The Lagos state government has run itself for several years, almost as a famous animal farm. You know, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. They use the sledgehammer against people that are poor or people that are not connected, while they pave and just make way for the rich, regardless of whatever offense that they make. And we've seen this happen across several sectors, from the housing sector, where we saw and we have experienced building collapses several times, places where people died, almost 40 people died. We recently, Niru, 2 people died, yet nobody's being brought to justice. And even that same week, on September the 13th, there was a fence collapse for a school in Lagos. And that same day, the owner of the school was arrested, right? Meanwhile, you have all these other buildings that were luxurious buildings in highbrow areas. No, the owners have not been arrested. It's not been in the news. Justice has not been met. So while it's important to have laws, I believe that laws must be humane. Laws must actually give justice. You know, it's one thing, there was a time where the British had laws of how they should treat Africans, right? There was a time where you could do so many things and it was considered illegal, but it was not just. So we need a Lagos state that has laws that actually provide justice. And punishments are proportional to the crime. You want a situation where if somebody commits a traffic offense, their punishment should be punitive, but it should not be damaging to the point where it's impossible. Where you seize a person's car and the amount you're charging them is pretty much impossible, so they are stuck with having their car there for so long to the point where they now have to come and cry and beg for those cars not to be auctioned, right? There's so many things that can be done. You know, these kind of things should not be turned to a money-making exercise by the government where they fleece the already overly extorted people in Lagos State. You need a situation where you can employ people to get involved in community service when they commit a crime, and they must make and take off so many man-hours before they are allowed to take their car back. Or you have situations where you commit a traffic offense, and the same state that mandates what's that word? What's that? We'll be doing several trainings for all our party agents. We also have our own security architecture in Labour Party to ensure that we'll protect our votes. Our agents will be well trained, they'll be well versed at what they are going to do on that day, so that when you come out to vote, you can be rest assured that our agents will ensure that those votes will count and your voice will be heard. My name is Gbadebo Vival. I'm the gubernatorial candidate for Labour Party, Lagos State. I'm the governorship candidate for Labour Party 2023 in Lagos State. Draconian is not going to be a state that is run, for the few, where, some animals are more equal than others. We need a situation where, and a sustainable situation where the law applies to everybody. We are going to empower institutions that enforce the law. A lot of training is going to happen to ensure that these people actually do what they are supposed to do, for enforcement in relation to traffic, in relation to waste management, in relation to taxes and fines. And the idea of these things should be that you are trying to create an enabling environment, not stifle people. And even more than that, to even achieve this, the government too must hold itself accountable, because the social contract that exists in Lagos should be like no other, because Lagos State prides itself in generating money from taxes, like no other state in Nigeria. And we pride ourselves on the IGR, and this is generated from people. And when people give you taxes, you're supposed to be accountable to them, right? So Lagos State in itself must show that it is willing to be accountable and is willing to be just with the resources that's being generated. And when we lead by example, we then have the moral right and the moral grounds to then demand such from our citizens. And in the case where they err, justice will be delivered in a swift way. So we're looking at policies like the ADR, the mobile courts, and we're going to invest in all of these increase the capacity of these sorts of structures to ensure that justice is served swiftly, right? So, but the justice that we're going to serve is going to be humane. You want people to always be on the right side of the law, and when they err, for justice to be punitive, but not impossible, and not make people's lives even worse.
Okay, finally, is there any other thing that you would like to? Okay, yes. So the 1 million march that was planned for Lagos State on October 1st, a few lawyers went to court to challenge,
As we severely interconnected, so we are bringing in the Badagry division, bringing in the Ikodu division, and making Lagos work as one, so that it's not as centralized. We need to decentralize Lagos, so that urban flow and urban movements will not just be coming in, it will be moving in their localities. You're increasing, in that way, you're increasing jobs in those places, you're increasing the value of the land there, you're increasing the ability for people to actually invest in those places as well. So these are some of the things that our government will be doing, but everything summarizing is a situation where we are putting the people first, we are creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. It's not a situation where we are stifling businesses or we are running an extortion-based business where we are just taking from businesses. We are creating an enabling environment for businesses and people to grow and flourish. And we are bringing innovation and making policies with the people, not for the people, right? We're making it with the people so that there is successful policy uptake and ensuring that funds are being used where the government needs to come in, and we're also partnering with the private sector. Because a lot of the reasons why Lagos State has been stifled is because the government wants to do everything. They want to take money from tolls. They want to be the ones that will be collecting ticket money from trains, right? Let the private sector come in. Our interest is to ensure that the quality of life of people that reside in Lagos is at optimum. And whatever fee that they are paying for this value is reasonable and affordable. That's what we want. It's not our business to be owning and having our people and our cronies in charge of revenue generation in multiple facets of Lagos State. And once the government comes out of the way of the private sector and enables them, you will see how much infrastructure we'll be able to achieve in a very short period of time.
Okay, when you look at the level of the...
Well, we are watching that. We've seen how over 18 states have shown some discrepancies with the registration of new voters. Now, INEC has shown us that their systems are still going to go through multiple checks before these new voters are added to the voter register. We are going to be watching that very closely to ensure that nothing will rig or compromise these elections that are going to happen in 2023. And even more importantly for me now is INEC facilitating people collecting their voters' cards, because many people have gone and registered to vote. And if they are not allowed to get their voters' card, that will be stifling their democratic freedom and denying them of their fundamental rights to cast their votes. So I'm imploring INEC to ensure that the voters' cards are ready at the time that they say it will be ready and will be delivered to people regardless of their tribe or regardless of where they are from. Because INEC in Lagos have been known. Where you have a certain name, your card is missing. Your card is not available. When you come from a certain part of Nigeria, your card is missing. Your card is not available. This must stop. We need a free and fair election to move Nigeria to where she needs to go. As they say, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Let this happen and let it be free and fair.
Okay, what are your plans for this?
Okay. I better go. I'm not.
And what would you do differently if you were in charge?
You see, it's a very, very problematic thing for me on multiple levels. On the first level, billions are paid by these markets on a yearly basis to Iyalojas and Babalojas and the government, all forms of levies and taxes that are not accounted for. We have to ask, what are they using these monies for? Why are some of these monies not used to manage the environment in these markets? Why is it the same market people that are paying all these taxes and levies should be responsible for the waste management in the market itself? considering how much monies are being taxed and generated and given to the government. That's the first thing. The second thing is how much involvement, engagement, planning have these bodies done with the market and sat down as stakeholders and planned out the market and said, this is the process and this is the flow of waste in this market, and this is what we are going to do together to ensure that this place is meets the standards of the Waste Management Authority. You see, Lagos State, like I said, and it goes back to what I talked about, draconian means of running this state. Their attitude is just to ban, is to punish, is to seize, is to extort, is to take. There never seems to be an engagement to actually enable and to create an enabling environment for everybody. Now, the second layer, which makes me, which I feel extremely uncomfortable about, is why do things like this always happen when we get close to elections? We've seen a trend, we've seen a pattern from 2015 to 2019 to this 2022 going into 2023. There is always this approach to target specific markets, because there are a lot of markets in Lagos State. And a lot of these markets, I'm sure, will have the same problems that the Waste Management Authority is talking about. But there are specific markets dominated by specific people that these governments always seem to target every time we get close to elections. And lastly, I feel that when I form my government, by God's grace, we are going to approach waste as a resource, not something that is just to be gotten rid of inefficiently. In Lagos State, waste is our second biggest resource after human capacity. And waste must be managed and handled as such, resourcefully, in a way that will stop wasting waste. So it is in the interest of the government to partner with the people that are generating this waste and see it as a resource that must be moved, processed, recycled, or upcycled. And if the government approaches waste management, not just waste disposal, because the Waste Management Authority is not really managing waste. They are disposing of waste, creating landfills that's causing a lot of stink in Lagos when you drive past landfills, especially in the rainy season. When these things can be processed, organic waste can have a separate route that can be processed to create organic fertilizer, biogas. Inorganic waste can be processed to create multiple materials and multiple raw products that we can then use for processing other things. So my approach to it will be using waste as a resource. And when you look at waste as a resource, not just something to go and dump, the state, the private sector, and the generators of that waste must come together to ensure that this resource is managed in the most effective and efficient way possible.
You seem to be the candidate for social justice.
Well, our government is going to be one that is based fully on transparency and accountability. This means that the government is going to transparently show you what they are doing with the funds that they generate in terms of taxes. And in doing this, they are telling you that this project that we are giving you at the best price, in the best possible time, and for the benefit of the most amount of people, right? We are going to ensure that whatever project that we are doing, when you compare it to projects being done in West Africa, in East Africa, the people of Lagos will feel that they are getting a good deal. We are also going to ensure that our government revolves around the people and the people's interests, from social justice to infrastructure development to education and healthcare. The people are going to come first. And the network, the spinal cord of this government, which I call the Commonwealth of Lagos, is one that ensures that the taxes that you pay, you get a direct benefit for paying it. Whether it enrolls you on an affordable housing plan that allows for you to climb up the housing ladder over a period of time, that enrolls you on primary health care. It ensures, I'll give you an example. We are talking about people saying that the markets are dirty. They want to close the market and deny people of their ability to earn a living in a Nigeria that's already so hard for so many people. Imagine if all the tax that these people have been paying, the government, the local government in that place says, okay, in this market we are going to have a creche for the children that are here, primary health care. medical insurance. These are the benefits for all the taxes that you pay. Those people will be incentivized to even pay more tax, right? Because they see the direct benefit and there's accountability that relates to it. Another thing that we are going to move away from is this development by taxation. That's all you hear in Lagos. Lagos State has generated, increases revenue from 900 million to 25 billion every month or 40 billion every month. Those are all the numbers that you keep hearing. But how do those numbers impact your lives? How do those numbers make your lives better? And we are going to go away from that to development by investing in human capacity, development by investing in social infrastructure, development by investing in creating urban renewal and sustainable communities so that people don't have to be coming all the way from Ikorodu to Lagos for work, right? We want a situation where each community can stand on its own. It is a fundamental human right for association and to be able to move in the streets that we pay taxes for. Them going to court, I'm very proud of the judiciary for not giving them this order and this based on the motion that they moved. I believe that justice will be served and people will be allowed their rights to be able to gather freely and associate freely and just make their voices heard. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody is protesting anything. People just want to march and show their support for a movement. So there's nothing to worry about. There's no damage that will be done. In fact, you'll find that the people that make this base sort of group are people that are extremely highly organized, are tax-paying citizens, and actually want the best for Lagos. So there's nothing to worry about, and I assure you that this march will go on October 1st as planned.
Election is coming. What's your message to the Humane official general administration, the White House, and
state and country? We need to improve this. This will then create jobs and make youth have a capacity to actually earn for themselves without doing all these things that they are forced to do and just loitering the streets and, you know, being traffic wardens, unofficial traffic wardens.
Okay, sir. Now the country are now facing the seriously challenges of insecurity in your government. So what are you going to do?
For us, we are going to focus on a data-driven government. We are going to completely revolutionize local governments because local governments are the heart of security in every local government, right? The local government structure, the security structure, the governance structure is the local government. So we need to make sure that we have very credible, highly cerebral people in charge of local governments. It cannot just be an appendage of a political party or a place where you just send people that are loyal party men to go and be in charge of and be, you know, subcontractors for the state. No, you need people that are passionate about their local government to be in charge. And then we now need to empower those local governments so that in relation to security planning, in relation to data that they are collecting, they are registering. So for instance, people are talking about Okadas and how Okadas affect security. Okadas should be registered to local governments. Data of the people that ride these Okadas should be registered with the local governments. We must create a surveillance and monitoring. With the current electoral laws that have been passed, we are very hopeful that we are going to have a free and fair election. And we have seen the antecedents in places like Osun, where we know if the BVAS system was not in place, the story would have been different. We know what happened the previous time that election happened. So we are very hopeful. At the same time, we've seen reports where, you know, there's some discrepancies, there's some situations where registering new voters have been compromised. And we are watching and we are hopeful and we are vigilant that INEC will do the needful and ensure that the voter roll and the voter register will be, you know, valid people. In relation to vote buying, I'm on the Labour Party, and we are very excited that our people, the obedient movement, are not looking for money on election day. They are the silent majority that wants good governance, are passionate about a new Nigeria, and they don't need you to buy them to come out. They are organizing by themselves. They are starting marches by themselves, printing T-shirts. They are moving. the way democracy is truly supposed to be, where it's a two-way street, it's a two-way conversation, the people and the politicians. You don't leave politics to politicians alone. It's too dangerous. And that is what the obedient movement is about. You have people that are not being paid by the political parties or the politicians. They are just coming by themselves and they are moving because they are inspired. They've seen a leader that addresses their needs for a new Nigeria, a leader that has integrity and capacity, especially cerebral capacity, and the vigor to be able to bring a new Nigeria to be. So we are not worried about vote buying. We hope and pray that the enforcers and the authorities, EFCC, would ensure that on that day, anybody that engages in such, because the new electoral law prescribes jail time for people that are caught vote buying. So we are hopeful that the police, EFCC, would act on that and ensure that those people face the full wrath of the law. The same state that mandates a minimum wage will charge you ×4 of that minimum wage when you commit a traffic offense. You see, so you find a situation where the law is not being delivered with justice in mind. And that's why I feel that across board, across all sectors in Lagos State, we don't have a government that acts humane. And even these crimes that they are talking about, the biggest breakers of it are the government themselves. They are the ones that beat the traffic lights. They are the ones that go on traffic, take one way with their escorts and their orderlies and, you know, the forces protecting them. They are the ones that taught these things and these means of behavior to the other members of society, right? And they are not brought to book. They are not having their cars auctioned, right? We appreciate that laws must be there for people to behave appropriately. But we are also saying that in the event that those laws are broken, the punishment must be proportional to the crime, not what the potential crime could be, but to the crime, right? And I think that Lagos State needs to sit up in that regard and needs to carry itself with a lot more humanity and humility, because it's the people that put them there. And they should, the government needs to adopt a position of servant leadership where everything revolves around the people and ensuring that the people's lives and quality of life, even when they break the law, you still give a certain level of value to it. So for instance, the man that was crying when they were auctioning his car, ideally, he should have first right of refusal to buy that car back, right? And the price should not be one where you are auctioning the car. I mean, this is a traffic offense. It should be a price that is punitive, but it should be doable. He can go and borrow to pay for it, not this kind of situation where that man found himself in.
All right, so you talked about, you also